Good evening and welcome to the Union Show. One of the most contentious issues of the Howard IR legislation is right of entry. Limiting right of entry is designed to keep unions out of the workplace, which we think is an attack designed to wipe out unions. With me tonight, one union leader who's prepared to draw a line in the sand, Dean Mighell. Welcome, Dean.
Thanks, Deb.
Tell me, what's the difference between a good shop steward and a bad shop steward in a workplace?
Well, I think we've got to remember, Deb, that I think any union relies heavily on shop stewards, employees out there in the field, representing the union, talking to members, getting them involved and getting them active and educated, which is what a good shop steward does. A bad shop steward's one that doesn't pass on information, doesn't seek the views of union members in a workplace and isn't getting them active in campaigns, whether they be workplace campaigns or right to work campaigns. So unions without good shop stewards really cease to function, and the Howard government knows that, and that's why they've targeted so much of their legislation to prevent them getting the support they need.
So members in workplaces without good shop stewards are going to be not represented, or can they still find representation with the union, Dean?
Yeah, they can, Deb, but it's a bit difficult because if you've got someone there in your workplace who is defending you, running the union line, giving you strategic advice, a well-trained steward, you're going to be so much better off as a worker. You're going to have a safe workplace. I think there's no doubt. We see that out there. Safer workplaces, we've got good stewards, good health and safety reps, and members who know what their rights are and get a bit of dignity and respect at work. So having good stewards is important. Right of entry, on the other hand, that the laws that Howard government's got now prevents union officials coming in, don't they, and to get into stewards, to help them on the job when they need a hand. So if you haven't got a steward under these new IR laws that prevent officials getting into workplaces as much as they possibly can, you're just not going to know your rights. You're not going to get any help enforcing them unless you're trying to deal with it over the internet or with a union organiser over the mobile phone, and that's extremely difficult to do.
Dean, it's happening weekly now, isn't it, that the federal government is actually targeting union delegates?
Well, the Howard government's made the laws, Deb, that give employers a massive free kick in targeting union shop stewards, keeping officials out of the workplace, taking away any rights for workers to legitimately take industrial action in support of a shop steward. We don't have those rights, those laws. So you've got ordinary working people, mums and dads out there in all sorts of workplaces, from hospitals to factories to construction sites, doing their best to look after fellow workers and getting sacked. And we saw in Western Australia, I think, and maybe Craig will comment on this as a CFMEU steward, a CFMEU steward sacked unfairly and 107 workers take industrial action, as you would to support somebody doing such a great job for you on their site, an ordinary rank and filer. And those 107 workers under Howard's IR laws are now facing up to $28,000 fines for simply walking off the job to defend another employee who had the guts to put their hand up and represent the union in the workplace. 150
years ago, the toll puddle martyrs, they were transported to Australia for trying to take collective action, farm workers in England. And are we getting back to the situation where it's illegal to act collectively, where you can't get together for a better deal with your mates?
What do you think, Craig, you and I went through back in 2000 in the metals manufacturing industry with the metals unions organised meetings of their workers, like we'd done probably for 100 years before that, to get the views from workers about what they wanted their next enterprise agreement to look like. Now, under Howard's IR laws, those meetings are unlawful. It's unlawful to meet. So we faced contempt charges for going ahead with those meetings. I think the dilemma, Craig, we faced was, do we meet with them and be in contempt of court, or give away the right for union officials to meet with members? And we weren't prepared to do that.
It seems to me that the consequences of all these laws are actually too much for the ordinary worker to bear, So they can't bear the finances, the unions can't bear the finances. How the hell are we going to draw the line in the sand here?
Well, let's face it, stewards have to be priority number one. No stewards, no union. So you have to look after them. And sometimes bad laws have to be broken. And it's been done in the past. You can't sit by and see bad laws destroy the trade union movement and democracy and freedom. And they're the sort of things that are challenged here. That's the sort of things we're seeing in our workplaces. So sometimes, and we've done it before and some of us have paid a hefty price for doing it, collectively, the union has to draw a line in the sand and say enough's enough. And strategically and carefully and with a bit of thought, sometimes you just can't hold the line on bad laws and you have to cross it. Been done before. So I think, there's a lot of challenges. The more the unions act collectively, the more we cooperate and support each other, and you've seen union solidarity do it, community activists do it, well then I think they show us a fair bit of a lead on the way we've got to campaign.
Are unions prepared to come together and fight as one on these issues?
Oh, gee, you'd like to think so. I think we have to work towards that. I think the crisis now is that unions are starting to see that if you don't fight together, if we don't start really getting our act together as unions politically and industrially, then we're doomed to die a slow death, and some sooner than others, quite frankly. But we might be here for a long time. We don't rely purely on a Labor Party victory. We have to organise and collectively do a lot more ourselves. I think it worries me, and I know that you, Craig, have seen it. Some unions and think, well, we've got to win the next federal election. Yes, we do. We've got to get rid of the Howard government, but it isn't the be-all and end-all. Organising, collectively campaigning is really important.
If you're always aspiring for the new telly and the new car and the new house, you're kind of being farmed, really, aren't you? And maybe people need to see that there's a difference between, what you get out of what you can buy and that kind of slavery, and what you can get from community and working with other people. Do you think that's got something to do with it? Like realigning people's values a bit?
I think the me culture that the Howard government loves to see Australians pursuing self-interest is against. It is such an un-Australian bloody thing to do. He preaches all this mateship and spirits at the Anzacs. Well, community values, unionism, collectivism for common good rather than self, they're real Australian values, and they're the things that are getting abused. I think that what we're talking about now, I think, engages so much population, not just purely the working class, but I think people are starting to realise that when talking about basic democratic freedoms here, workers not having the right to withdraw their labour, being oppressed, stewards being oppressed in workplaces, union officials not allowed into workplaces to help people, which is what we do. That's what we're here to do. And I think you're starting to see so many freedoms being eroded. I just think those are the values that I sincerely hope trigger Middle Australia to actually start thinking it's not just a union issue. It's about the future, and it's about decency.